Hey, I'm Evan. Welcome back to the channel here. Today, I'm going to get into astrology, like always. And the topic is going to focus around 2 points that are lesser known. You know, we have the 7 traditional planets that are very well known. But the 2 points I'm going to discuss today are Chiron and Lilith. Chiron is considered a comet, and Lilith is considered really a mathematical point based on the moon's relationship to how far away it is from Earth. And it's the furthest away point, like the point where the moon is the furthest from Earth. So I can kind of discuss what that means astrologically and mythologically for both these points. Chiron is known as the wounded healer in Greek mythology. He was this figure who had a wound. I think he got hit by a poison arrow or something like that. And it just like festered, and like he really just had, his entire life became like trying to cure this illness that he had, this injury that he had. And in doing so, he learned tons about health and healing that he was then able to become this sage and teacher for others, and was considered very wise. So he was able to, from his wound and what he learned about the healing process, actually use that as fuel to help other people heal. So that's what Chiron represents in the birth chart, is this place that can indicate where you're wounded, but specifically also, and I would say more specifically, where you can use what your wound is. It's not necessarily the place of your wound, but it's the area in your chart where you can take what you've learned from your wound or from your trauma and heal from it, a place where you can heal, and in that same process actually share and help others, use it as a gift for others and sharing. So that's really, it's not necessarily the point of the wound in your chart, but it's the place that can indicate where you can heal, specifically an area where will help you heal, and right alongside being able to offer what you learned to other people and help other people heal. So that's Chiron. Now Lilith, as I said, is this interesting mathematical point about the distance from the moon and the earth, where the moon is furthest from the earth. So what's interesting about that is in Greek mythology, the character Lilith was a goddess who rebelled against Zeus. So she represents this rebellious feminine energy, essentially, this very strong warrior goddess who's like, you know, the first one to be like down with the patriarchy and all that. So what's interesting about that kind of mythological viewpoint, and then the actual kind of mathematical calculation about what Lilith is and what it represents, is interesting to think that it's when the moon is furthest away, and the moon is this divine feminine energy. It's the queen of the zodiac. So the point where the moon is actually furthest away, it's like this detached feminine, that energy that is not intimate or connected or grounded with the earth. So that's why it's associated with this dark feminine, because when something's not grounded or further away, it becomes subconscious, right? And, you know, when we're talking about masculine or feminine energies in a mystical sense, or, you know, certain psychological viewpoints on the feminine and the masculine archetype, when masculine energy is kind of ungrounded or, you know, dysfunctional, you want to say, like there's a tendency for aggression, right? Like it's usually comes out in very obvious, direct ways. The feminine, ungrounded feminine energy, that subconscious, the dark feminine, if we want to call it that, the wild feminine, comes out in indirect ways. That's where like sabotage you know, think like, stealthy assassinations that you don't even know that it was an assassination, right? Like this type of stealth violence and sabotage and just destructiveness and vindictiveness. Like this is where the dark, unconscious feminine energy can manifest in these ways. So Lilith, what Lilith really represents in conjunction, the reason I'm bringing up Chiron and Lilith together is because they both are connected with trauma and inner subconscious wounding that needs to be integrated in our psyches. And it's different how that manifests in everybody's life, and in everybody's birth chart it is represented in different ways, obviously. Everybody's unique. But these 2 points are connected in the sense that Chiron is a point that shows how you can heal from your wound and how you can use it to help others. Lilith is the point that can indicate where a wound exists and the means through which it activates in your subconscious. Because essentially, anything in our shadow or subconscious is going to manipulate you from the dark. It's going to manipulate you and sabotage you from places that you are unaware of within your own psyche and soul. So Lilith is that point. It's that little dagger inside of you that keeps stabbing you, right? And you don't know where it's coming from. You don't even know it's there. You might externalize it and project it on the world, that the world hates me in some way, but it's actually some type of internal pattern, something that you haven't confronted about your past or an experience or self-belief, whatever in your childhood, however it comes up for you. Lilith can indicate where that is present. And it's helpful, and this it sounds like terrible, how do we get rid of Lilith? You don't want to get rid of Lilith because Lilith is the force that is going to prompt you and make you confront these things by, basically, it's going to set these parts of self-sabotage that come up, and you don't know why, start investigating ways where it seems like you might be self-sabotaging in your life, or you go through an experience. We all go through experiences where it's it seems like I just kind of blew up my life in that way, or I ruined that relationship, or whatever it might be, and you're not sure why, but if you have a sense that it was something internally in you that actually did it, even though it seemed like it was against your best interest, it's probably Lilith at work, right? It's this subconscious energy that we need to become aware of. So working with Lilith in identifying how she manifests in our chart and in our life can help us become aware of our shadow, these traumas and wounds that exist in our subconscious, and start bringing them to the surface. And it's usually a painful process, and the more we resist it, the more Lilith is going to cause us pain and just frustration and cause chaos in our lives, right? So the more we actually go looking for Lilith and be willing to go into the shadow and meet her there and bring that to the surface is going to show, okay, here's where the core of this wound of ours exists. This is also a distinction that I want to make, as I made with Chiron. Chiron is not the point of the wound, and Lilith is not necessarily the point of the wound either. Not necessarily. Not to say that it can't be right with the wound, and we have multiple wounds, we're complex humans, but Lilith is the point where that wound is subconsciously triggered or activated, right? It's like this weak point that accesses our part of unconscious pain, for example, that we want to not feel. So together, working with Lilith can identify these subconscious patterns and energies in us that need to come to the surface so we can become aware of them so they don't manipulate and sabotage our lives from our subconscious. Bringing that to the surface, we can then become aware, as Chiron did, about, look at this wound, look at this trauma that I've experienced, and you can identify it. And you can start to recognize it as the symptoms arise. You know what it's coming from. You recognize that there's something within you. Feelings that we don't want to feel. It's always sounds very simple and trite, but at the end of the day, that's the real work, is just feeling the feelings we don't want to feel and allowing them to be felt is pretty much everything in life. That's basically the point of life in many ways, but not to oversimplify. So Lilith can bring this trauma up and this subconscious energy so that then we can work with it through Chiron. It's like, okay, Lilith makes us aware of the wound. Chiron can then show us how to go about healing that wound. So that's the kind of beautiful harmony between these two lesser, more like, it's more modern astrology discusses these points opposed to traditional astrology, and it's very helpful through the psychological, psycho-spiritual lens of astrology to look at these 2 points and how you can use them together. So like look at what house, look at what sign your Lilith is in, see if that makes sense. Maybe it's in the house of your family, maybe it's in the 4th house, and think about your childhood or your family dynamics and look at the relationship with your other planets in your chart. And then perhaps, like for me, actually, my Chiron is in Leo, right? So Leo is about performing and being in the spotlight and putting myself out there, which I think I've discussed in one of my other recent videos. That's part of me, that's something that's quite uncomfortable to do, to like speak in front of a camera to people I'm not sure who you are necessarily. Like this type of thing is foreign to me in certain ways. Certain ways I have an affinity for it, but there are other parts of myself that are like, no, I prefer to just kind of stay private. But for me, Chiron is there. So dealing with some of my issues is a very healing process, to go up as a musician on a stage, express myself, be vulnerable in public and this type of thing, and then offer what I have to offer. Because if I'm not putting myself out there, Chiron also teaches what he learned about healing to others. So that's the way I kind of think about my Chiron and lean more into that, those Leo aspects of myself within my own healing process. So that's an example. And of course, I'm willing to go more into depth with how to integrate and navigate our birth charts and integrate all these different points within our charts, including our Lilith and our Chiron. But I figured it would be valuable to kind of make a video about those 2 points specifically, because they're not as well known about unless you're really more into astrology. And even myself, it's only recently I've had some very precise Lilith transits, which I've been observing, and also seeing enough charts really honing in on how Lilith manifests. And only recently can I say that I'm starting to get an understanding of Lilith. So yeah, I feel confident in speaking about her in this video here, and the more I do, the more I learn, like, oh yeah, Chiron and Lilith have these two dynamics, this dynamic pairing between them, which is very useful. And again, yeah, trauma work, personal integration of the energies that we all have represented through the planets is some of the most valuable, are some of the most valuable perspectives in finding our own healing. So I do offer consultation services. I call it astrologically informed life counseling, essentially. So if you're looking for something like that and feel a vibe with me, please reach out through my email. I'll put it in the description. It's in my channel description. And yeah, we can get into all this stuff together if that sounds compelling to you. So I think I kind of made all my points about Lilith and Chiron that are coming to mind here. I definitely, I like to keep, when I do birth charts, I like to keep them clear of unnecessary, there are all sorts of extra astrological points, comets, etc. I include Lilith and Chiron, but I like to keep it clear of other stuff that just gets the chart looking a bit overly full. But these 2 points I've decided are quite helpful and are becoming more popular in the astrological community and in spirituality and kind of that whole scene. So for a good reason. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.